Hey everyone, hope you are feeling well. It's me, Vishnu, your learning partner. Today we are going to learn about the Transform Data Raptor in the OmniStudio. So let's get started with it. This session will cover Transform Data Raptor in. So what is Transform Data Raptor? We have seen the load data raptor, and then we have seen the extract, turbo extract. Okay, so the fourth one is transform, where we actually don't take the data from the Salesforce, neither we update the or like insert the data in Salesforce. It's moreover transforming the data from one format to the another format. For example, you have object of data that you want to convert in a list of JSON, okay, or you might have JSON data and that you want to convert in XML, and there are other examples as well, but this the core idea of the transform data raptor is transform one kind of data to the another kind of data. So let's get started with the first example here, and I click on the new and then provide my data raptor name dr transform object to list, where we will be converting the an object to a array. And then here select the transform data raptor, save. Here you are seeing the like four tabs, right? Formula, transform, option, and preview. Formulas we are not going to cover much, but we will have one of example from this formula section. Then we have the transform. You can see we have two things: input JSON path and output JSON path. So input what we are feeding it to, and output what this will be giving us. So let's get started with the our input data. So I have opened this website called JSON lint, where I validate my JSON formats. Okay, so here we have an object called single object, and then we have one property first name which have the value of ND. So let's copy this. Let's go back here. Okay, so we will have our single object to the transform property here, and then we will add list of object, and in output data type we will give it as a list of map. Okay, let's see the preview what happens. So once I execute it, you can see the single object became a array now. Okay, so this is an array format. So this is our first example, simple example to convert to object to a list. In this example, we are going to create a list of data from an object, list of object. And so what we are going to do is, like, we have this kind of JSON where we have movies, name, genre, right? So what we are going to do is, like, we will have an output where we will have all the movies name in a list. Okay, so let's see how it works. We will select here transform, save, and we are going to provide this as an input here. Okay, let's go, and we need a list of movies. So our input will be, not our input will be, so what we are going to do is we are going to utilize here formulas. Okay, so we will add formula here. So we write formula for each of the item here, and then we define, okay, this formula will be going to this variable. So I'll say movies, and then I want to bring only names here into a new list called movie names. Okay, so we haven't added this. Will it work? Let's see. No, right? Even though we have created this variable, it doesn't mean that it will be available for the output. So we need to have this as an output. So we will call it, so our input will be movies name from here, and then output can be anything, right? So I will call this one as a formula. So I will say FRM, and I will also rename it here as well. So we have movies names FRM in this, and then we are going to output in the movies name JSON. So you can see that we have all the movies names here in an array. So this is our second example. So in our third example, what we are going to do is like we will have movies name as a multi-pick list. So basically all the values will be separated by the semicolon. So instead of changing into this, what we are going to do is we will clone this out and we will call it dr transform list of object to multi-pick list, save. Okay, so let's execute it. We still have the same output. Go to the transform. Here select the output as a multi-select. Okay, so you can see like this is how the output would be, and click on the execute. So now you can see uh, from this to having as a multi-select values. In the fourth example, we will have this kind of data where we have this attribute called superhit. Rather than having it as a no and yes, what we want is it is a boolean flag like true and false. Okay, so let's see how we can do this. So let's create a new data raptor. We will name it tr transform data conversion yes and no to boolean. Then select interface type as a transform, provide this as an input, and if you have seen my past videos, right, we can utilize this as an input JSON. So what we are saying, okay, so our input will be something like this. Okay, and we are not defining what kind of output we want, but defining the input will help us the variables from here, right? If we don't define the input here, we have to look for the variables and we have to type each and every variable. So we will say, okay, movies genre will go to the same output JSON path. Add one more. Name should again same go as a name. Hit next. Superhit should go as a superhit. But here we want data transformation. We want yes to be true. Okay. So I'm going to say, okay, if yes, then say true. If no, then say it as a false, right? So let's see how it looks. So we have input JSON and now you can see this is how it will be. But if you go back and click the execute, you have true and false, right? But still it's not what you wanted. Okay, so you can see this behavior, right? So sometimes it happens in the transform. I have seen it multiple times, right? Even though if you type it fully, it only saves a character or two characters. So if you see this kind of behavior, don't worry about it, just go back and fix it. Okay, so I was telling you about that this is still in a like a string format because I can see the double quotes, right? So let's go back and change the output data type to boolean. Okay, so you can see I told you about this, right? Even though I just typed the entire false and it is keeping just fa. Let's confirm it. It is still same. Okay, it might take 2 or 3 tags, right? So we have now true and false. Click on execute. So now you can see we have false as a boolean flag now. True, false. So we had there are two no's and one yes. We have two false here and then one yes. In this example, we are going to convert one object into multiple objects. We can take an example of like a form, right, where we are taking our input of like name, first name, last name, address, and each and everything, right? And then at the backend, we want to create multiple records of the Salesforce, right? So how we can do that? So let's see. Go to the dr, create a dr object to multiple as object formation. Click on transform. This is how our input will be. Okay, so we have this JSON here: first name, last name, email, street at state, company, website, and username, all of the data. And what we need is like we need to divide this data into multiple objects like account, contact, and user, right? So this will go to the contact information, and this will go to the our account information, and this will go to the our user information. This will also go to the user object. Okay, so let's divide in a logical way. I'm going to copy this and put here. This will be our testing data, right? And in the transform, I would say, okay, this is my JSON, and then first name should go to the contacts first name, and then same for last name should go to the contact last name, and then also email should go to the contact email. Then we have account data, so we will say website should go to the account website, and then company should go to the accounts name field. Okay, again, just to be clear, this is not actual or S object. It's moreover, we are transforming the data here. It can be anything, but to relate with the actual objects, so I'm picking up the account, contact, and user example here. So we have mapped out this information. Then we have the username should go to the user's username, and then email should also go to the user's email, first name should also go to the user's first name, and then last name should go to the user's last name. Okay, and then we have left with the street and the state. So I will move them into the account as well as into the contact. So street should go to the accounts street, and again street should go to the contact street, and then same we will apply with the state as well. So this should go with the account state, and state should go with the contact state. Okay, so we have mapped out all of our data. So let's see how our JSON is currently looking like. So we have contact and state mail, first name, last name. Then we have our account as well, where we have name and website. Then we have the user. Okay, so this is how our data will be. If I go here and execute it, so now you can see the all the data has been mapped in a new format, right? Okay, now let's see another way of doing this data. So we want account should be a parent and the contact should be inside the account. So what we are going to do here is wherever we had the just contact, we will say this should go to the accounts contact. Okay, so I'll change it wherever we have the contact. We have one contact as a last name here, and then we have this state, and then we have one more left with the street as well. So now we can see the entire contact we have into the account object. Okay, so we have account, contact, contact information, then account information, then user is a separate. Okay, so let's go back and let's execute it. So now you can see the data in this format. Okay, so this is how you can like distribute the data in different objects as per your need. In the next example, what we are going to do is like we are going to convert this array into an object. So fields, the first element should go to the contact's first name, and the fields second element should go to the contact's last name. Okay, so we are going to do this kind of conversation. So here we are going to create a new data raptor. We will give the name as dr array to key value. And in this example, we will learn like how to use the pipe and how to access the index of an array into the data raptor. So here I say JSON, and let's put this as well here. Okay, so to access like any indexed value, like we want to access fields first index or second index, right? We cannot directly do in this transform side, right? What we are going to do is like we are going to utilize formulas here. Okay, so in formulas, so our variable array name is fields. Okay, so here we are utilizing pipe sign. Okay, and pipe sign, after we are going to say okay, bring me the data from the first index, and that should go to the first name. Okay, then we are going to utilize this again, and we are going to say hey, bring the data from the second index and have it on the last name variable. Okay, so this can be quite different if you are coming from background of like Apex, where we arrays start from the 0th index, but here in the data raptor or in OmniStudio, like it start from the 1. Okay, so this is a big thing. Please do remember this. Okay, so now we have first name and last name. Okay, so what we are going to do is, okay, so your input will be first name and our output will be first name of the contact. Okay, then we will have last name and our output will be contact's last name. Okay, so now we can see the fields, the name, first name and the last name is coming as a formatted object. So in this example, we are going to take the input as an object, and we will convert in a list of items the way that we had earlier, right? So we had a list of items and then we converted this in this object. Now we are going to revert it. Okay, so let's create a new data raptor called a dr transform key values to array, and select interface type as a transform here, and then go back and bring this to the preview section here as well, and in the input JSON. Okay, so now how we create a array, like it will be a kind of static array because you are going to define the first and last index. Okay, so we are going to say hey, context first name should go to the fields first index. Okay, and then context last name should go to the fields second index. So if I go back here and click on the preview tab, so you see this, now we have data in an array format where we have first name here and last name here. You might get confused a bit when you see this here, but when it actually like create the data, it will show you in this format. Okay, in this example we are going to convert JSON data to the XML format. So we have this data raptor, and here we'll select transform. Now we are going to change this output type as a XML. Okay, so now input is JSON and output is XML, and we can do vice versa. We can have input as a like a XML, and then output
as a JSON. So we have added our JSON here, and it will be straightforward transformation that we say, oh, hey, whatever you are getting from the movies should be also going back to the movies, but in a XML output path, you can see. So we have input JSON path and XML output path. So go back and hit the execute. So now you can see we are getting our data in a XML format here. So that's it for the today. In next session, we will cover like more advanced topics here, and you can find out all the examples in the description. We have OmniStudio recipes now. So all the examples that we are going to cover in these videos will be available on the GitHub. You can download those, you can import those data picks, and you can play around those. See you in the next section. Thank you. Bye bye.